Great, Oscar. Thanks for the intro and a great presentation, John, before me. You've set the bar. So it's nice to meet you all. I really wish I was there in person, by the way. I'm dialing in here from little old Ireland, Wicklow in the middle of the countryside. So we'd love to be at the real SaaS show and the SaaStock in California next time around. We're big fans of the show in Dublin, which is a great kind of melting pot of companies, venture capitalists, and beer. So I'm here to talk to you about kind of the culture, the challenge of kind of building a really good culture in your business. And we spend a huge amount of time at MX focusing on that. We're a software company, and we're really trying to achieve amazing things with our product. But we know a really important part of what we're doing is about building a team of people, young people, mature people, people with different skill sets, and driving them out to achieve as much as we can as a group of people. And it's kind of been a thing that we adopted a couple of years ago. We've been in the business 10 years, and we've really, as we've gone through our cycle, and there's lots of people here, I think, from different backgrounds, new startups, mature companies. But the bit that we bring to everyone's mind is that you've really got to operate excellently as a team, and you've got to put a lot of effort into defining what your culture is, and then continually reminding yourselves and your new hires and the people leave that this is what we're all about, and this is how we're going to achieve the things we're trying to achieve. So I'm going to share a few slides now with you guys. Try and get a bit of fun on this. We're not going to be too serious. It's important, as we know from SaaStock in Dublin, it's important to be kind of light. So here we go. So back to our kind of core belief at MX, we really believe that culture is the difference between the companies that are very successful in their kind of task in building out SaaS platforms or providing IT services. And we think it's often underrated in that we get pulled down the pathways of technology and all the obvious winning successes like that. But our really deep felt belief is that if we put the right group of people in the room together with the right technology that we have, and whatever technology we don't have, the right group of people with the right culture can kind of build, and if the right mission behind the project, we can almost achieve anything. So it's kind of a bit of a grand statement, obviously, but it's very core to what we believe in MX, and it's core to what we want to share with you guys as other kind of people starting their journey as SaaS companies, venture capitalists, hopefully providing the much needed fuel for the SaaS companies, and just as we all try and build this new internet-driven future. So we're going to frame this idea around the classical institution, which is the Irish pub. We really think it's an example pretty close to our hearts home here in Ireland, and robbed from us by Covid-19, but coming back shortly. And we think it's an example of what a kind of the right team of people can achieve when they're approaching kind of a challenge or a project with the culture driving the whole agenda. So as we enter this typical scene here in the west of Ireland, I think some of you hopefully watching here have seen this, or some of you have seen it in movies and that, but this is a pretty traditional night in a bar in Ireland where there's a group of people apparently operating kind of in a structured musical format, but really something magic is going on in the background. And for anyone who's not seen this in person, what happens here is it's a bit like an improv jazz session where the leaders, the founders of the company are sitting up here on the stage, and they've been kind of appointed to kind of lead this trad music session. That's kind of myself and MX and my partner Richard, are you guys the founders in your businesses? And you're kind of setting off on this journey of saying we have a big empty pub, and now we've got to make something happen. We've got to fuel this fire and get some energy into this room. And what happens in Ireland here, and I'm sure it happens all over the world, is that people join in after the event. They realize people are leading from the front here. They're setting an example of, playing brilliant music, bringing energy, developing software companies. And these people who are sitting closer to us on the screen here are they're looking a bit more, they're a bit nervous. They're kind of entering. This lady on the left here in the bottom left corner is nervously on her boron, which is a drum in Ireland here. And she's probably not come from many nights, but she's really joining this team. And what we see happening here is that the leaders of the company here and the leaders of the pub are bringing in new members to grow this company. And really that's building a kind of consistency in the energy of this startup or this kind of pub and this story. And it's something kind of magical sort of begins to take place. We highlighted the next really important person. You might have missed him in the previous slide. This is looks just like the bar lady delivering a pint of Guinness, but I know in my mind she's the angel investor putting some much needed fuel on the fire here, because every kind of creation like this, every act of people working together requires an external form of energy. In an Irish pub, it's lots of pints of Guinness, but in a kind of startup business or a software company like ours, we need to attract people in to provide capital. And obviously SaaStock is all about introducing and meeting people in the capital sector. So we wanted to give a big shout out here to the angel investor, and hopefully in this kind of story, a giant venture capitalist rolls in afterwards and does a big Series A. Then this happens, which is a real downer. This is what's going on at the moment. The bar empties out. There's nobody here. It's a big empty bar. It looks great, but there's no people, and the energy is just dissipated from the whole company. This can be a startup business where things have gone wrong. Your team has moved or left. Or like this, it's a Covid-19 bar where nothing's happening. And this kind of leads us into what we think is very important in building a business, any kind of software business, is that you do have to have a physical place where the activity takes place. The team huddled in the room is a real thing. It's very popular at the moment to try and distribute work around the world. MX is distributed across a couple of countries, but we know we regularly have to get together physically. We regularly have to bring together our team to meet, exchange ideas, and kind of get that energy back from the pub, from the music session. We're kind of jamming, and we need somewhere to jam. So that was like, this picture says to me, things are pretty poor out there. COVID-19 is being dealt with, which is brilliant news. Hopefully it never comes back and we never see it again. But as we try and build the culture of our businesses together, we have to find a way around it and find a way to kind of maintain the energy where we can't meet in person online like this. But nothing really replaces the physicality of the headquarters, the office. And then what we do is, as kind of founders of our companies, we're looking around the world for the examples that we want to follow. The leadership ideas around culture, that's kind of inspiring us to be the best we can be. And this is where I take our journey next. So we've seen the pub, we've seen it flying, we've seen how horrible it is when it's empty. And this is where, as I was researching this kind of piece here, I was thinking about great places in the world where amazing things happen. And Pixar obviously comes to mind. It's a phenomenal business built by a phenomenal man, not just Steve Jobs, George Lucas as well. And when they designed this headquarters in San Francisco, Steve Jobs essentially designed almost every part of the building himself. And the entire purpose of the structure is to create interactions between people. The act of creating a movie, animated or real, requires humans to work together as a team, a culture of success and entertainment to be built, and things to happen. And obviously, in competing in the movie business, you're competing with the best producers in the world and the best the directors in the world. So it's a very competitive environment, which is not unlike what we face every day in the SaaS business. And that's where Pixar did an amazing job in these headquarters. As soon as I can get to San Francisco in the future, following SaaS and COVID-19, I intend to try and get in there and tour the building, because it's a hive of activity, a hive of creativity, and exactly the kind of environment I think we need to create in all our businesses to kind of stimulate our people to excel, to perform the best they can, and to really build better companies. As we go through our journey thinking about these kind of things, we then find, we've all read The Culture Code. It's a phenomenal book. It's the framework for how we think about our business. Hopefully, if you haven't read this book, guys, it's a big shout out. It's a must read for everyone trying to build a modern software company. And the little stories we take from that, it's full of beautiful anecdotes, but the anecdotes about the spaghetti challenge is really interesting. I'm here in Ireland here with my 5 kids in the house. I've been watching them learn firsthand now for the past 2 months. Homeschooling is a phenomenal kind of opportunity to watch how young people work. And in particular, I've got a 10-year-old, Woolsey, who's been homeschooling with his Montessori school. And just like Dan Coyle has said here in the Culture Code, watching young people create things in a kind of a free-flowing sense is amazing compared to watching people who attempt this Marshmallow challenge. And for people who don't understand the challenge, it's 20 places of spaghetti, it's a yard of tape, it's a yard of string, and it's a marshmallow on top. And your challenge is to build the highest structure you can build with the marshmallow sitting on top. So it sounds kind of easy. And the story in the book goes along that you can bring together an expert team of MBA people, you can bring together some primary school children, or you can bring together the Navy SEALs. But what I found interesting was, as teams operate together, the teams that were most successful in attacking this challenge were free-flowing teams of young people, not constrained by a hierarchy. So not constrained by a leader telling everybody where to go, and letting the ideas come up from the grassroots of the company, or in this case, the grassroots of the challenge team. So it's a big piece of our culture in MX is to allow young, talented people join our business and let them quickly share ideas through the company as to how we can do things better, just like this Marshmallow challenge. And effectively, our leadership at the top is vital to set the culture code of the company, to set this kind of free flow of information, this improv jazz session, this Irish pub session, and then really, as we bring in more and more talented young people, let them build the company that they want to build with us, defined by our culture. Culture code then takes us to another kind of interesting approach, and this is about kind of, we interpret this piece as transparency, or kind of the freedom to discuss ideas with each other without restraint. So the Navy SEALs who are featured here, sitting in cold water, really bonding uniquely. So I've been involved in many companies. I've never had this kind of experience with my peers. And we know in MX, this is the kind of bonding we're looking for amongst our people. So we can all go out and we can have coffees and we can do sports together. But what happens here in the Navy SEALs in the USA is that as they struggle together here in the water, as people suffer together, the bonds between them have become phenomenally powerful. And when these kind of characters, these kind of bonds are tested in a very stressful scenario, unfortunately for the Navy SEALs, these are kind of wartime scenarios. But in a startup business, it's where things are tough. You're stuck on a sail. You've got a code problem you can't fix. It's the bonds between the people become the most important element of the success in the future. So we think that's built in MX by allowing everybody in the company communicate freely with me or Richard, my partner, or the CEO or a CFO, and really create an environment where you can tell us when we're doing something wrong and we won't be offended, but also giving them the freedom to make a mistake on a sale or make a mistake with a problem we've set as a company, and acknowledge that if we're not making mistakes regularly, we're not making progress. So this freedom to make mistakes is inspired by my children in many ways, is freedom to also be very creative and very kind of imaginative in how you attack any problem. And by using our imaginations like that, we can solve bigger problems and build hopefully bigger and better companies. And then the final piece, as I take us down this journey, was, I think we've all probably watched The Last Dance by Michael Jordan. We're hugely inspired in MX here. We're a European company based in Dublin, but we're hugely inspired by the sports leaders out there, be they Alex Ferguson in Manchester United, or the managers of the football teams like Atletico Madrid, where they've built a phenomenal culture of success. And Jurgen Klopp, most recently in Liverpool. These are all rival teams, none of which I'm supporting, but I can only but admire the ability of leaders of those organizations to set a culture of success and then allow the sports players to kind of perform. And it is the magic sauce, going back to our first slide, being able to unlock that kind of potential with your people will make the difference between being a moderately successful software company or a supersized unicorn, which I'm sure we're all sharing ambitions for. And Michael Jordan in this Netflix show was a phenomenal athlete, but also a phenomenal leader who appeared to single-handedly lead his team from obscurity to, success. And we're not basketball fans in Ireland. We don't understand the rules of the sport, but we definitely recognize that kind of passion and that kind of ability to pull a company into success, or to pull the Chicago Bulls into success. And then as I kind of close off our presentation, we think it's about the journey. It's the culture of bringing your team together on the journey, and the amazing opportunity we all have as people in the software business to bring talented people together, combine upon the mission of building our companies, and climb these great peaks we all aspire to reach summits to, and build bigger and better versions of our companies every day. And listen, thank you very much for listening to my presentation here. Come and join us in the booth. We're kind of new to this virtual conferencing, so apologies if we're not there all the time. And we look forward to meeting some of you guys in person, be it in San Francisco or New York or Boston or in Dublin at SaaStock next year. Thank you very much.